Missing a target is not failure. Choosing to quit because of that is. And therefore, every day that we wake up, it's another opportunity to try again. And it's a chance to choose to succeed. And therefore, we are remarkable. So it's January. And just like last year, time and time again, I fall in love with this idea of setting new targets, setting a New Year's resolution, because it's exciting, because planning is fun. And not only is it fun, but it's neurologically satisfying, because you set the intention within the prefrontal cortex to create a plan, and you do create a plan so you can go tick. And what happens inside your head is the anterior cingulate cortex, which is responsible for detecting alignment between goal setting and action, is that's feeling pretty good. What happens is that part of your brain freaks out when you set a goal that you don't hit. So if you're setting a million New Year's resolutions, inevitably not hitting all of them, the anterior cingulate cortex starts to, you've got this low grade distress that is persistent, because the ACC can't switch off on its own. It needs some kind of reassurance. It needs some kind of proof that we are hitting our objectives. And we have this phenomenal capacity called imagination to create some of the most insane objectives for ourselves. And every year we do it, and I do it as well, and we fall in love with this process of creating these grand and elaborate schemes. And it's exciting, but within that, the whole idea of New Year's resolutions is an uncomfortable truth, because overcommitment to inspiration is one of the most common causes of burnout. What happens is that if you are interested in setting targets within your life and you don't focus on the longevity, finding the blocks that are creating the distance that currently exists between your current self and the version of you that you want to be. So my goal this year, beyond all of the targets that I've got, like learn to drive, start YouTube, beyond all of the targets, the superficial targets that I've got, that yes do hold place and value within my life, ultimately my target within all of those is to find the blocks and to work through those, as many blocks as I comfortably can, that are preventing me from having done those things already. Because if we truly believed that we could be who we wanted to be, that we could exist in a way that we want to exist, then we would have done that yesterday. But we haven't. So there's a reason why. And finding the blocks, finding the reasons and the limiting beliefs and the self-criticisms and the self-blame, finding the origin of those and making the commitment to myself that I'm going to sit with that discomfort and I'm going to come to a conclusion, I'm going to come to some kind of observe and come to some kind of interpretation and apply compassion within that. That's hard, by the way. That's really hard. To sit and turn the camera on when you feel self-conscious or you feel unsure. To sit with that feeling and apply compassion, that's really hard, and that's something that in turn takes practice. Henceforth, I have filmed a ridiculous amount of YouTube videos that have never seen the light of day because they've been a learning process. You've got to find the block, okay? Because inspiration is a powerful thing, but on its own, sheer willpower and inspiration will get you nowhere. Understanding resentment and self-blame, if that is what comes as a consequence of burnout, if you fall into habits of criticism and self-blame when that occurs, as opposed to self-compassion and looking for a solution, looking for a way forward, that fundamental trait that's what's going to hold you back. Not that you're incompatible with progress, not that you're incompatible of growth or of becoming the type of person that you've put on your vision board this year. That is what's stopping you. What happens in burnout often is that people experience bouts of paralysis. And this might look like coming home from work. And that transition period, for me personally, I know that that's a danger zone. From when I finish work to when I feel like my night begins, there's often an unreasonably large period of time. Because within that window of time, yes, I'm walking home. yes, I'm showering, getting some food, blah, blah, blah. But the period of time that it takes me to decide that, oh, my time, my night has begun, is often way later on into the evening. And that's when we start to get people are like just refusing to go to bed at reasonable time because you want to make up time. But actually you had those hours that you stay up for, you had those earlier on. You just didn't feel like they were yours yet because it's not a clear transition period. You haven't disclosed with yourself, you haven't made it obvious that, okay, this is your time. So when you get home, it's really important that that time counts. So what often happens is that period of time for me specifically, I know that that's my danger zone. That's when I scroll. That's when I come home and I say, right, okay, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes and then I'm going to go in the shower. And then that's my time. After that, that's my time. And the shower it works as a bit of a kind of like transformative state where you go in the shower and you come out and, oh, it's the evening now, it's my time. But that little 5 minutes, and it's a bastard, that little 5 minutes, if I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have 5 minutes on my phone, I'm going to scroll. And it's not even really relaxing, but you tell yourself that it's going to be, and it's addictive is what it is. You sit down, 5 minutes turns into 30, it turns into 45, it turns into an hour. And before you know it, you're feeling irritated. You're feeling let down. You're feeling bored, stressed, because you've taken in so much stimulation. And you've got this tenseness inside. And what that is, anterior cingulate cortex. And that's responsible for detecting conflict between goals and action. So what happens is it creates a sense of wrongness. So the prefrontal cortex, as I say, behind your noggin, that is responsible for setting goals, setting targets, and making decisions. So when we make the decision that, okay, I've got work to do when I get home, I know I've got coursework to do, I've got work to do, whatever, and then you get home and you sit down and scroll, you can't go into relaxation mode. If you don't schedule periods of time throughout the day, throughout the week, where my intention is to relax, my intention is to regulate, then the ACC, it's going to go into panic mode, because otherwise, subconsciously, the things that are on your to-do list, the objectives that you fail to meet, and if you're overcommitting to inspiration, then you're going to have a ridiculous list of things and objectives that you're proclaiming that you're going to try and meet. But of course you're not going to. Of course you're not going to meet them all. And that's okay. But what's not okay is that your ACC is then going to go in overdrive. It's going to start to freak out because you've got these goals that you've set and the action that you're taking is not corresponding, okay? So your brain is literally freaking out because subconsciously, all the time, you know that you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that feeling of wrongness, that feeling of irritation, that feeling of like, I know I should get up, but I just can't. Procrastination makes it worse, you know? Like, the ACC doesn't time out on its own. You don't need to finish the task to reduce paralysis. You just need to start it. It's important to know that paralysis is not inaction. It's a stress response. When we go into paralysis, so for example, I know for me, my danger zone is like that period of time when I get home and when I start to feel like it's my time after work. So like when I get home from work, I'm really naughty and I'll get back and I'll think, right, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes, I'm going to have a scroll. And 5 minutes turns into 30 minutes, and 30 minutes turns into 45 minutes. And before I know it, and I've set the intention loosely to relax. But it's not relaxing, is it? Because you're taking in so much data, so much stimulation. You know, I should have sat down and read a book, and that's what I'm getting better at. And at the moment, I'm reading A Discovery in the Cotswolds, and we'll get back to that. But you set the intention to relax, and then you do something that's not relaxing. And then it's hot because you've set the intention to relax, but the action that you're taking is not facilitating relaxation. So you keep doing it because you're still not relaxed. And that just goes on and on and on and on. And there's this building feeling of irritation and stress and like a sense of wrongness That comes from the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex. When we find ourselves in a bit of a gridlock, movement breaks paralysis, motivation comes later. We often blame ourselves, and we're kind of come to the narrative that we are not motivated enough, that we are not disciplined enough. But like I say, paralysis is not just inaction, it's a stress response. This is a thing that's happening within your mind, within your brain. And when you understand what's happening, then you can be compassionate and you can take the actual steps to then come back into a sense of regulation. And that's not just some wishy-washy, like, spiritual jargon. Like, that's a legitimate neurological system. And this is what I mean, like, this is why I want to make YouTube videos, because I think that there's so much information out there, and I'm sorry if I don't do a good enough job of explaining the information, but this is why I want to try and get better, because there's so much information out there that can make your life a little bit easier, and that could facilitate you being more compassionate with yourself on the grounds of sincerely understanding what it is that's going on, understanding that you are not broken, that you are not faulty, that it's not your fault, but there is something that you could do about it. Like I say, often the period of time when I get home to when I start to feel like it's my time and I feel like I've switched off. Because the things that I do to switch off aren't actually switching me off, and they're actually switching, your nervous system back on. Helpful. But they're easy, and of course you're going to go for the easiest option. So make positive, productive choices the easier option. Like the whole idea of like locking your phone away kind of vibe. Like, not necessarily that hard, but put a book out. Have a book on your bedside table. Have a book on your sofa, on your armchair. This year it's not about try more, do better. It's about try again on purpose. So when we understand that when we set too many goals, without the intention of finding the blocks, without the self-compassion, without the understanding that there are going to be blocks that come up, and that the real goal should be to find those blocks and handle them with compassion. Fuck the goals. The goals will come. If you deal with that, the goals will come. Because like I say, like, everybody wants a better life. Everyone wants better shoes. Everybody wants a nicer car. I just want a car. Everybody wants to be a black belt. Everybody wants to have nice handwriting. And if you got what you wanted, like, think about how badly you want some things that you want. If you just got what you wanted because you wanted them so badly, then we would have everything. But that's not how it works, because these blocks appear and we decide that we can't get it. So therefore it makes sense to set the target to find the blocks. So like myself, you've set a New Year's resolution. My resolution, I'm going to make some YouTube videos. Within that resolution is the ultimate resolution. That I've decided that whatever block comes up, I'm going to face it with as much compassion as I can. And I'm going to find a way to understand why that block is presenting. Like, what's the underlying cause of it? And come to some kind of ability to navigate it and prevent it, therefore, from arising in the future. Because that is my underlying goal. That means that when I find myself in paralysis, that when I find myself in a bit of a gridlock, which will happen, I'm going to be more well equipped with the tools to navigate and deal with it. Like, another one of my goals is to get in really good shape. And I don't mean that in the sense of like big muscles. I mean that in the sense of I want to be able to do more with my body. Like, I want my body to be more flexible. I want my body to be stronger. I want to be able to like coordinate myself better. So obviously I do kickboxing, but I really struggle with things like footwork, because I'm a lanky, bendy girl. Like, I am so hypermobile that to land a target, I'll just simply stretch. I'll just simply bend, and like, I often sacrifice good form because I just sort of bend. And while that might look impressive that I can kick really high, it's not the right form, and ultimately it could cause myself an injury. So one of my goals is to get better within fitness and to get into the best shape that I can get into this year. But, you know, a goal that I would have had a few years ago would have been maybe to get abs or to get like toned legs and arms. And like, yeah, while that's great, don't get me wrong, I want abs. I want abs. I want to look as fit as I feel. But that's a byproduct of the things that I really want. You know, like, you're not going to look like the athletes that come up on your feed, and your muscles are going to ache long before they start to stand out. But I know that within those targets of getting into a better shape and finding the block and dealing with it, I know that if I just keep going in that direction, that is going to open up so much for me. And what I hope to summarise here is that every year, come January, we set these large New Year's resolutions. I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to learn 3 new languages, I'm going to get these grades in school, I'm going to become this belt, and, you know, whatever. And of course, we don't hit the majority of those targets. And from that, we draw self-blame, resentment, and consequently disinterest. We push ourselves too hard, we're overly critical and comparative, and we come to the conclusion that we are incompatible with the process. And neurologically, behind the scenes, what's going on? Within the prefrontal cortex, we make our vision board and we set our intentions, you know, and the rest of the brain's like, oh, this is going to feel so nice. And the ACC's buzzing because we've set the intention to make a plan, and we've made a plan, and it's like, yes, we've done something. And it's triggering all of these happy hormones and dopamine, and then we feel motivated after we make a plan because the ACC's like, cracking, yeah, we're on a roll. As I say, motivation comes later. So your brain's like buzzing, made up. But then we don't hit the targets, and we push ourselves too hard, and we criticise ourselves, and we hit this danger zone of paralysis and executive dysfunction because there is so much on our list, and there's so many things that are important that we don't know which one to do first. But if you start on the basis that you'll land on gold dust, you will not succeed. So instead, this year, what we're going to do is we're going to set the intention to find the blocks and to show compassion to ourselves when they arise, and to learn about ourselves and about the systems going on up here that are designed to help you. You just need to know how to use them. So many people think that their brain doesn't work. So many people think that their brains are fighting against them. Like, oh, like, my brain doesn't work. Like, I can't do this. I can't do that. My brain doesn't let me do this. Like I say, like, paralysis is not an action. It's not necessarily a choice. It's a stress response. And when you come from a place of compassion and self-understanding, and you learn, like, the systems that are going on up here, you can start to work with them. And, well, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't it be brilliant if everyone set the intention to know themselves a little bit better? But people don't have access to this information very readily and very easily, and people also don't have time. Like, I don't have kids, so I can do this, you know. I mean, I've got other things that I should be doing, but, like, I can. Like, there's people who are far busier than me who would really benefit from this information. So hopefully I can get to a stage where I can cohesively provide you with the information, and that will be a benefit to you. Yeah, I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I hope that you make the decision with me here, do it with me, that you're going to set the intention to find the blocks, as I've said for like the 56th time this evening, and that you're going to work through those blocks. Have a lovely night.